Thank you. We'll now recognize Mr. Takano from California for 5 minutes.
So is it Ms. Bodensteiner? So you would be open to the idea of separating the idea of collegiate education from public spectacle, the responsibility to provide public spectacle, that the money that accrues from high-stakes athletics, we have created this nexus between universities and high-stakes athletic competition. In your view, there's not necessarily a nexus, or does that need to be one?
I think that there is an unfortunate decision that high school football athletes have to make if they want to go to the NFL. Just as many individuals can leave high school and enter a trade and do so freely, I think high school football players are put in a very difficult situation that they have to go to college as their opportunity to get to the NFL.
Of course, there are risks that accrue to the collegiate athlete who misses out on an education. But that's a whole other discussion about whether they should be unionized or not. But could we not draw a distinction between schools like yours, which subsidize all of the athletic programs, versus those schools where where athletics, basketball or football, is a high revenue maker? I mean, it subsidizes not only athletics, but one could even say it subsidizes many other parts of the university operation.
There are significant differences, and yes, there are significant differences.
So we ought to be talking on two different planes here. So, Mr. Pierce, much of what you have written about, I think, applies to the idea that collegiate athletes, many of them minorities, racial minorities, provide a great amount of value. Value, as you said, is extracted from them, and they don't necessarily benefit from the value extracted. In fact, is it not the case that in many schools, coaches make more money than the university president?
That is very true, yes.
Can you give us an idea of what those salaries are? Do you have that off the top of your head?
Oh, not off the top of my head, but if I were to say $5 million for a coach's salary, I would not be off base.
I think the American people, if they were to look squarely at the amount of revenue they generate for the coach's salary, the amount of revenue they generate for maybe subsidizing the other athletic programs, but not just that, but the dependency of many universities on the athletic program to subsidize many of their other operations, maybe even the research that goes on there, that there's something out of whack there, that the students, the athletes themselves generate this revenue, but what can we say they get in return? Can you comment more on this sort of imbalance?
Well, the imbalance is substantial. Athletes are not getting their returns, and the athletes of color who are playing football and basketball in the powerhouse schools are, through their services, producing so much revenue for the school that the school is being benefited in other areas that are not profit-making. So the basketball team is, in many cases, supporting the hockey team or the tennis team or the swimming team. And so a lot of the activities that is being subsidized is subsidized on the backs of these players.
It could even be said that the educational scholarships which allow those other athletes to get an education are actually being, it's being won off the backs on the hard work, the daily training that the athletes from the high revenue sports provide.
That's correct.
And this whole idea that a seat at the table in real time, the NCAA has rules about how many hours an athlete can work during the term time and off-term time. Are those rules often not adhered to and violated, do you think?
They're substantially not adhered to and significantly violated. Testimony by USC players and former players talk about 40 to 60 hours a week of
So sorry, I only have 30 minutes left, 30 seconds, but the high stakes nature, the high paid salaries will give incentives to kind of not observe those rules and to not, the NCAA rules, would not collective bargaining give the players the wherewithal and the leverage to have those NCAA rules enforced?
That's correct.
And I would further submit that rather than speculate whether collective bargaining would violate NCAA standards, I would say that collective bargaining has a chance, an opportunity to make sure that those standards are actually adhered to and enforced. The exact opposite.
Oh, that's correct.
I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We'll now recognize Mr. Grothman from Wisconsin for 5 minutes.
This one,
Can we help him?
general question for Mr. Mitten.